Hi, and welcome to the Karsch and Anderson program. I am Doug Karsch. That is Scott the Gator Anderson. Scott the Gator Anderson, how are you today?
Okay. Just a little. It was a little sad yesterday that the passing of rock legend Ace Frehley, the guitar player for Kiss, back when Kiss meant something. He died at the age of 74, so that's kind of sad.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured that would be something you'd want to talk about, and we will get into it as the day goes on. You just heard the bulk of the NFL films. Let me be clear on this. That was the section that they tweeted out to promote their show, Turning Point. We have decisions to make every day about what we're going to talk about, what we're not going to talk about. We have decisions to make every day about, okay, what does the audience want to hear? We had kind of put to bed the Kansas City game and what happened in the Kansas City game yesterday. Kang brought up something in the Blitz thingy, and it led to a bit of a topic. People were sounding off on said topic, and they were like, okay, it's time to move on, barring any new news. So the new news on Wednesday was Dan Campbell reiterated that the call came down from New York. He was told that the call came down from New York, even though the league denied that. Jared Goff, when we asked him about it, I think he just echoed Campbell's comments. So that was news Wednesday, and we're like, okay, it's probably going to be put to bed. And then it came up yesterday in the Blitz thingy. And so that was our choice. And that, some people might have had it with the topic, and I get it. Then what happened with the NFL TV show Turning Point, it brings it back. And the NFL tweeted out, their show Turning Point is kind of a deep dive with their mic'd up players and mic'd up coaches into games. And they did the Turning Point. They focus on a couple of games, and one of them was Detroit and Kansas City. That clip you heard in the update was near the end of their breakdown of Detroit and Kansas City. And it definitely appeared to be trying to make Brian Branch look bad. And you heard him say the four things. It was a rough night for Brian Branch, and Louis Riddick was reading the script. This is a league outlet that wrote a script and put out a video. Now, as far as I'm concerned, there's no problem with pointing out when a player had a rough night. However, they're examples. Burned by Kelsey's basketball move, okay? Branch comes up from a safety spot, what appears to be zone coverage. He may have outside leverage on this play, and he forces him back into Jack Campbell, and Campbell runs right by him.
It's hard for you to say. I know.
I know it is hard for me to admit that it might have been Jack Campbell.
But yeah, upon replay, when they show the play, it's like it's clear that Jack Campbell's coming over from the linebacker position and over pursues the play, and Kelsey just goes back to his right and east-west up the field.
Yep.
To free him.
Okay. All right. You can call it burn, whatever. It's no big deal. Got showed up by Patrick Mahomes.
When Mahomes scored the touchdown.
Yeah, they call the league's video partner, NFL Films, for Turning Point, called what Mahomes did to Brian Branch showed up.
Would you call it something else, Doug?
Well, there's a word that is used when the rules are applied called taunting.
Oh.
Now, do I care about the taunts? I really don't. Do I think it's silly? I really do. However, the consistency throughout the league, there's an example of Puka Nacua flexing and pointing in the direction of a defender that got flagged.
Mm-hmm.
Was that last weekend? It was last weekend, or was it 2 weeks ago, Kang? I think it was, I can't remember. But it was a very similar play. Puka Nacua got flagged. Patrick Mahomes didn't. But the NFL, to point out what a rough night it was for Brian Branch, calls that showed up. Then he said he got juked by Xavier Worthy. Okay, fine.
Xavier Worthy freed himself from a tackle. I mean, Branch was wrapping him up, but he spun around and broke the tackle. It was a nice play by Worthy.
And took a shot from Juju Smith-Schuster.
Well, it took an illegal shot from Juju Smith-Schuster that was not called a penalty is how it should have been read, but that was not it.
So they're using two things that very well could have been flagged that probably crossed the line with the rules, and use them as an example of Brian Branch's bad night. And I'm like,
well,
is this a smear campaign against Brian Branch?
In addition to that, they show the exchange after the game where Patrick Mahomes is trying to dab him up, and Branch is not having any of that, right? As if that's another piece of evidence that shows that what a poor sport Brian Branch is. When there have been a number of occasions after a Kansas City loss that Patrick Mahomes will storm off the field and not dab up the other players. But we won't mention that because that's bad Patrick. We only talk about good Patrick.
Mm-hmm. As we watch the whole thing, and Kang, we're very sensitive to trying not to be just homerism radio, even though we admit that we are homers. Like, we don't want to. Is this a big deal in just Detroit? And that's why we're kind of leaning into this one a little bit, because it's not a big deal in just Detroit. Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio wrote about how dangerous it is that the NFL buzz down, if they did buzz down to change a rule that they are not allowed to have them drop a flag, they're not allowed to. Florio wrote about this again yesterday afternoon.
Well, and obviously we're local.
Yep.
We're going to talk about it.
Yep.
But it's not just us. National TV and radio pundits have all talked about this, and specifically about the NFL buzzing down to the officials and getting them to change the call on a play that is not reviewable, but got them to take the extra 74 seconds after the play and discuss it so you get the outcome that the NFL wanted. So it's not just us. And,
okay, so the Detroit fan in me, I watch this thing and I'm like, oh my God, this is such Chiefs propaganda. I was like, and then I step back and I go, what about the reporter in me thing? The reporter in me, or whatever we are, trying to be as professionally, like, to step back and look at it from a media standpoint. I can't believe in the current climate, with concerns about the league being pro-Chiefs, that they approved putting this out. That's one. Two is they took it down.
Well, that's the interesting part to me.
They took it down, and they took it down for a reason. What do you think that reason is?
I think the Lions, here's what I hope. I hope the Lions bitched about it vociferously. I hope that they pointed out all the flaws in what they were doing. I hope that they reminded them that it was the NFL that buzzed down to the officials on the field, because that's what they told Dan Campbell. That's what they told Jared Goff. Mm-hmm. And nothing you say now is going to change what they told them during the game. So just a reminder, we know what happened. And yes, we have commented on what happened, and we're not backing off that.
I'm flabbergasted that the NFL put this out there. And do I think they tried to make Brian Branch look bad?
I think that was
sure
the point.
Looks like it.
Yeah, it's one thing to do just a fluff piece on Kansas City. And those are easy enough to do, and they won the game.
They're all too enthusiastic to do that.
Yes, they are. And the whole thing starts off with Taylor Swift. Hey, it's another Taylor Swift game. But that's what they're doing, because they're trying to they're riding the wave as much as they can when it comes to Kansas City, when it comes to the Taylor Swift effect, the Patrick Mahomes effect, because they know it can change like that. All it takes is an injury, and then there goes the wave. So they're riding this as much as they can. I find it interesting that they took the angle to smear Brian Branch along the way. That I don't understand. Like, if you were going to just talk about how great Mahomes is, another piece of like that, okay, fair enough. Hook him. I got it. It's nauseating, but whatever. But when you decide consciously to go after a player on the opposite team and do it in such a way where you're framing it where the only way, if you didn't watch the game, to interpret what Brian Branch is to follow that narrative, that's incredibly unfair. It's reckless, and it's completely uncalled for. Which is why they pulled it, because it was.
248-539-9797. Kang, I want to get your take on it. We'll get to your phone calls and feedback, your ticket text. It is Karsch and Anderson. We are looking at another one of these stories that I thought was dead. I thought was over, and then I feel like the NFL made a really odd choice. They use that to promote it. The video's still up on Turning Point. It's their tweet that they took down.